Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Forget Me Not Project podcast. Here we'll be talking about the series and all the episodes that are going on, that the project's about, etc., etc. Grab yourself a wee cup of tea, wee glass of wine, bottle of tequila and a straw. Who knows? You might still be in lockdown where you are. And join us for a just nice, relaxed discussion about this fantastic project. So I'm going to hand it off first to our writer to introduce himself.
Hi there, my name is Marc Mckigen, as you can see my little box at the bottom. I'm the writer of the Forget Me Not project. Currently, we have just released part one. If you haven't seen it, please jump over to our Instagram and or our YouTube channel and check it out. And that's all I've really got to say for myself at the moment, and I'll pass you back to Kiera.
Lovely, thank you, Mark. So, Amy, if you'd like to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy O'Brien. I'm the actor in part one. Glasgow-based actor, and this project's been like a long time in the making for me. If this is something I've really wanted to do, I'm very, very excited for you all to watch.
Lovely, lovely. So I've got a couple questions for you guys. I'm going to jump right into. Spoiler alert though, we will be talking about episode one. So if you guys haven't had a chance to go on, check that out. Pause the video right now and go check that out on the Instagram and IGTV and the YouTube channel, like Mark said. So Mark, the first question is for you. Tell us about the writing process. What inspired you to take on this project? Tell us a little bit about that.
This project I've been writing for 5 years now. The amount of times I've started this project and finished this project and decided that I hated this project and decided that I can't write are countless. But obviously with lockdown and not being able to feel like I can actually enter into a creative space and not being able to go see a film or a play, I went, what can I lose? So I picked up a pen and paper and I've fired into this. It's been very challenging. Obviously, it's a very touchy subject sometimes. It can be very hard to know how to tackle that and how to talk about it, but also not like offend people. I really didn't want the play to become across as offensive. I wanted to try to show the actual real side of things and people's real everyday kind of things that they have to deal with, or things that have helped define them as a person.
Absolutely. The Forget Me Not project, it covers topics like OCD. Part one, that was a huge part in that episode. So what was the writing process behind that? How did you gather your research? Did you talk to anyone who has the work?
I have had multiple interviews with people who suffer from OCD tendencies, but also people that have full diagnosed OCD, or people that are currently, a few people that I've spoke to are currently struggling to try to get a diagnosis from OCD, a couple people with parents with OCD, and a couple people with like siblings, brothers or sisters, or even partners with OCD. We've done around 40 to 45 interviews with different people. Now, a lot of those interviews were just people being really lovely and being like, well, my brother also has this, and my mum has this, and my aunt's aunt has this. And it's built from that, and we've had a lot of really generous people basically just wanting to put forward a little bit of advice. And obviously when working with actors that also struggle with OCD tendencies as well, which was a great insight to like actually have something that's real and personal for them, and we can bring that out and hopefully bring it to life.
Fantastic. It just, with so many interviews that you've done, it really would have given you a sense of how common OCD actually is, and how many people can suffer with the diagnosis or even just OCD tendencies, that must just be really startling to kind of see in real life the figures, kind of actually meet people who experience this. So, Amy, what attracted you to this project and this character? What made you go, this is the character I want to portray and this is the project I want to be involved with?
I always find things that connect to really any mental health subject always attract me. It's something I've always been very open about myself and very much wanting to advocate more people knowing about. But the OCD aspect is a really part that really interested me. As someone who has, I mean, as everyone does a lot of the time, has ups and downs with their mental health. I've had mental health professionals saying that I probably could go ahead to try get a diagnosis of OCD. I've definitely got the OCD tendencies. I've experienced people within my family with the OCD tendencies. So something that would allow us to show that OCD isn't just obsessively cleaning your kitchen or, you know, obsessively wiping down the toilet. That was a big thing for me because that's a lot of the time how it's presented, and it's not the full picture. Don't get me wrong, it is a lot of it, but I think I wanted to show at least a little bit of an insight that it's not just about, I hate to say it, it's not just about the cleaning aspect of it. You have the compulsions, you have the obsessive overthinking, you have so many aspects to it that aren't seen. And then from the character's point of view, I could absolutely identify with the idea of a huge part of you know, your thoughts, your behaviors playing a part in relationships in your life. It's something that I absolutely could understand, and I think that's just what drew me to it. And then I always say this, through the whole the process of this, nothing came up to me and went, oh, this doesn't feel like I understand it, this doesn't feel like I could go through with this. It all just felt right. It all felt like, yeah, this is how it is, or this is how I've experienced it, or this makes sense. So it was definitely something I really, from the outset, really wanted to be involved in.
Lovely, and thank you for sharing that, Amy. Were you involved with the creative project like at all? Were you involved with the writing process? You know, because as Marc said, he interviewed a few people. So were you involved with that process at all?
Yeah, we done a wee interview. So it was we talked a bit about OCD in general, you know, the general idea of OCD, but then also my own experiences. So as someone who's very open in saying I have an eating disorder, very open in that, but a lot of the time the eating disorder I've got, OCD goes with it, and which is what I found with myself. Both when I was very ill with it to this day, it's changed through that time. So, and it's not been that long, it's been, you know, even through the short time that I've experienced it, it has changed. So it was quite nice to talk about how it's not just your standard compulsions or your standard routines that you do. It does change, you know, even though it's a lot of the time it looks like, oh, you have to do something 5 times, you have to do this X amount of times, and it's a set routine. It still evolves within the person, and it evolves with every situation that you're in. So we kind of talked a bit about that, and a bit about coping strategies on top of that as well, which was kind of like a nice thing to be able to put across as well.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I think with disorders like OCD, it's often a bit of a joke, you know. It's just you have a really nice clean house and that's as far as it goes. And actually, you know, it's a lot more deep rooted than that. And a lot of people, you know, the germaphobe or even the compulsion to clean isn't actually even a compulsion. Which is like really interesting how you guys kind of explored that and definitely brought that up in part 1. So the name Forget Me Not with a K. Do you guys want to tell me a bit about that? What was the inspiration behind the name?
So throughout the kind of interview processes that we were doing, the word that people constantly used was noting. They kept, and a lot of the time they would physicalize it. They were saying like the compulsive thoughts and the compulsive actions that they felt that they had to do. It was like a lot of the time it was like this knot that was being tied tighter. And even if logically they could break away from these compulsive thoughts and think this isn't what I should be thinking or should be doing, this compulsive thought was, or intrusive thought as a lot of them wanted to describe it as well, was so kind of overwhelming that it was like this knot being pulled tighter and tighter, and you're trying to pull away from it, but you're actually making it worse because you can't physically break away from that. And I just thought it was quite poetic and a nice kind of simpler way to say it. A lot of the themes throughout the Forget Me Not series is it's about love, it's about everyday struggles, it's about these things that we can take for granted, like a simple breakup. You might just get over it. You might go on a girls' night or a guy's night, and that's kind of done. But someone with OCD can also become very obsessed with that. They can blame themselves, they can blame their OCD, they can blame compulsions, and it's about that kind of self-love and self-hatred. And we just I really like that image of like the two ropes being pulled apart. And with so many people kind of describing that's how they felt within themselves, I just felt like it was kind of poetic in a little way.
Yeah, that's definitely something I got from watching the episode, especially in part one with being in a secluded forest. Like, I definitely got a feeling of isolation. And how did that feel for you, Amy, being on set? You looked absolutely fantastic, by the way. How did that feel being on set and kind of getting to play and explore with that as an actor?
I mean, it was a fantastic experience to go through. The filming of it in comparison to the feeling of it was just, it absolutely fitted for me, which is something I've always said, is that it's nature, and as you'll see in the episode, nature does play a good part of the calming process, of the understanding process. It was just, it felt right. The with what was going on in the script, the whole idea of the episode with the setting, it absolutely just fitted really well. It helped me even in the bits that I maybe didn't 100% understand. When it came down to it, you went, right, I can see the thought through here, and I can see how this idea or behavior works with this aspect. I'd say it was probably the clearest I've seen the whole idea of the script and everything like that. Was the day we were filming. I went, yes, that clicks. That everything, absolutely, I get it 100%.
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes through in the episode. Is it's this idea of this beautiful chaos that nature can have, and usually for someone who is obsessively, or compulsively thinking about something, that just could be, describing that would sound a bit overwhelming, but just nature has this absolute way of just being beautifully chaotic in a way that you don't feel like you need to control. And it was definitely a lovely kind of sentiment to watch. And for a video that was, in a way, I guess, kind of cynical, it was nice to kind of see this character have a real release and kind of go walk through her journey of being overwhelmed, being calm with her. And that was definitely a wonderful thing to watch. So next question is for Marc. Part 2, is it in the running? Can we expect to see something from part 2 soon?
I don't want to give any dates or anything, because I'm still working on a couple little bits and pieces for it, and sadly, part 2 isn't filmed outside, so we're being held back a little bit more of COVID restrictions. But part 2 is the original part 1. The script's more or less finished. There's a couple little tweaks that we're making. But hopefully you will see some announcements soon. We have everything ready for part 2. We're kind of just waiting for last little touches and COVID to give us a little bit of a break.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of creative decisions have been falling to the fate of COVID.
Yeah.
Over the last year, it's definitely. How did you guys find it with the COVID restrictions? Did you find it hindered you? Did you find the creative process helped? You know, were you able to pull something that you maybe wouldn't have with it?
We had to be more careful. We got lucky with the style of it. It was outside, it was well ventilated. There was a couple shots that we weren't 100% sure how to achieve. In terms of COVID, a lot of like over shoulder shots. We were like, well, we might just have to artificially zoom that instead of me standing over you. I had to make sure that we were masked, and other things. Also, just the simple things is making sure that our actors, like, or actor in this case, had a jacket on set. That I made sure that we brought a really warm, cozy side jacket, just so the warm up wasn't for nothing, and we were keeping people warm throughout the day. Because filming outside wasn't ideal, but it was good for this particular piece. But that's also why part 1 was meant to be part 2 and became part 1. So yeah, that was a main challenge.
Yeah, that was something new with the whole, we have to keep this X amount away, we need to do this, we need to do that. But it was almost, in the way my head works, it almost worked to have someone that X amount of space away, because in my own head, with the way my tendencies work, there's a far space between me and anyone else, between my thoughts and the way I think and the way I'm feeling and the way that's maybe portrayed to other people. So it almost kind of worked as almost a little on set, is like, yeah, this is how it feels. This is viewing how it actually feels to be so distanced in how you're thinking and how you're feeling to other people. So weirdly it worked. But then it was also the awkward stuff, and now I need to stay away from you.
Yeah, I suppose even with someone who has OCD, their obsessive and compulsive thoughts or actions are in a way kind of like restrictions. So, and for you guys to have to operate with such strict restrictions due to COVID, and kind of maybe almost gave you a sense of what it would be like to have to stick to something so regimentedly, and how it actually, restrictions can come in the way of just, everyday tasks. In this case, it was COVID getting in the way of filming, or having to change the way that you would ideally film.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, I can see where you're coming from.
Lovely. Well, that is it for my questions. Do you guys have anything you'd like to add before I round up this amazing episode?
Would you care to fire away, Amy? You can take the lead.
Do you know what, just in general, loved being a part of this project, something I've really felt very passionate about. And I really hope you all really enjoy the final product, because it was amazing to create. It was amazing to talk about, to rehearse, to film, and then to watch. It's something that a lot of care and a lot of love has gone into, and I think you can see that in the way it's been done. So I really hope you all like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing to have you on board, and to have you on board as not only an actor but helping out with the writing process and having to sit down and just having an open kind of safe space to talk about it. A couple of things that I would like to add. This was obviously just like a total passion project. It kind of came from nowhere. I kind of, a few years ago, I fell down the OCD rabbit hole and watching people produce some beautiful poetry and short plays and short films, just trying to show what they felt like in their everyday life, and I just wanted to do something that I could do to show that. We are constantly trying to grow the project. It's went from being a 2-minute monologue to a multi-part series, so undecisive on how many parts yet. But if anyone who has OCD or knows anyone that's affected by OCD, or even just actors or, you know, cameramen, sound engineer, sorry, camera person, like sound engineers, photographers, editors, anyone would like to just get involved in whatever way they can. We are currently totally non-profit. We're literally doing everything off of our own back. It was quite hard, you know. I had to learn how to edit and learn how to use a camera and learn how to do sound, which was the most tricky. So if anyone is out there and sees our project and, you know, likes it, or it touches a place in their heart, and they want to get involved in whatever way possible, please send us a message on our Instagram and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and we would appreciate any help that you can pull forward for us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to all of our listeners and viewers and our distinguished guests on this episode. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you all, and I'd just like to congratulate you. And it has really been, I've been really privileged. I've been running the social media and organising the kind of the PR of this this episode. It's been amazing to watch it go from a blank page to this amazing episode, and I can't wait to see what you guys have got planned for the rest of the series. Yes, so thank you for everyone listening and watching. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Mark, for coming on and talking about the process, and thank you for having me coming on and just giving me a moment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Roll on part 2. Woo!
Thank you. I would, as the writer and producer, I would love to just say a wee quick thank you to Amy as our lovely actress, who basically came out of this with absolute passion. Like the work that she done was absolutely amazing. We couldn't be happier. And thank you so much to Kiera, who's been our lovely social media manager and basically just took a lot of stress off my back, because I don't know how Instagram works at all. So
you guys make it easy. You've got beautiful faces to post all over the internet, and it's been making my dream an easy peasy one. So thank you so much for everyone watching, and I hope you've had a brilliant time. Stay tuned for part 2 and for any upcoming casting calls or crew calls, and I'd like to just wish you the best with all the rest of your project, Mark. Thanks guys, see you later.